You've got a record-breaking cricket match, a world champion team, and a host nation playing on home soil. I mean, that's got all the ingredients for an absolutely electric spectacle, right? Well, what if I told you that one of the most dominant victories in recent memory was played out in front of, well, almost nobody? Let's try and piece together how this completely bizarre event even happened. So this is the central puzzle we're digging into. On the field, it was an absolute masterclass, a historic rout. But off the field, the empty seats told a totally different story. It was a disappointing dud. How could these two realities possibly exist at the same time? To figure that out, we're going to have to dissect this whole thing, piece by piece, and we'll start with what actually happened on the field. All right, let's get into the first innings. How did the host nation, the UAE, end up on the wrong side of history against the world champs? It all happened so fast. You know, things didn't even start that badly for the UAE. After 8 overs, they were at a pretty respectable 47 for 2. I mean, against the best team in the world, that's a stable platform. They were in the game. But then, everything changed. Even the UAE's own head coach, Lalchin Rajput, he knew the exact moment the match just completely turned. He said his players were just overawed by big names. But the key phrase there is, once spinners started operating. As soon as India brought on their world-class spinners, the game just flipped on its head. And wow, what a flip it was. After getting to that solid position, the UAE's last 8 wickets fell for just 10 runs. That's not just a collapse, that's a total, complete capitulation. And here you can see the guys who did the damage. Just look at those figures. India's spinners were basically unplayable. You got Kuldeep Yadav taking 4 wickets for only 7 runs, and Shivam Dube with 3 for 4. Combined, that's 7 wickets for a measly 11 runs. Just pure dominance. So yeah, that was the final result. UAE all out for just 57. It officially went into the record books as the lowest T20 international score ever made against India. The on-field story was one of utter demolition, but that was only part 1. So let's shift gears to part 2 of what happened on the field. With a tiny target of only 58 to win, the only real question was how fast could India get this done? And the answer was incredibly fast. You can see the aggression right from the get-go. Abhishek Sharma walks out and smacks the very first ball of the innings for a 6. That kind of set the tone, you know? By the end of the second over, they were already at 25. Sharma blasted a quick 30 before getting out, but by then, the damage was more than done. Just a few balls later, in the 5th over, it was all over. And this is the stat that just seals the deal. 93. That's how many balls were left when India won the match. It was their largest ever margin of victory in terms of balls to spare. The historic rout was complete. Which, of course, brings us back to our big question. So, we've established the on-field story was one for the record books. Now, let's play detective and investigate the off-field mystery. Why on earth did almost nobody show up to watch it? I mean, this is the question that just hung over the entire event. We're talking about Team India here, a team that basically drives the global economy of cricket. They have millions of fans, people who will travel just about anywhere to watch them play. So why were the stands in Dubai so empty? Former cricketer and commentator Akash Chopra, he summed up the confusion perfectly. He basically said, this isn't normal. In his words, the tournament just hadn't created the necessary buzz. And his concern really tells you this wasn't just a quiet night. It pointed to some bigger issues at play. And one of those big issues really comes down to context. You have to understand where the Asia Cup actually fits into the super crowded global cricket calendar. Yeah, it's a major continental trophy and it's prestigious for sure, but it's not the absolute peak of the sport like a global T20 World Cup, and it's not the high-octane franchise cricket of something like the IPL. This table really helps put that hierarchy into perspective. The T20 World Cup, that's the pinnacle. The IPL, that's the biggest, richest franchise league on the planet. The Asia Cup, while still important, it kind of sits in a tier below those two when it comes to global hype and just sheer fan attention. And that starts to explain the lack of buzz. So when you put all of that together, a few key reasons start to pop up. First, the tournament just lacked that top-tier buzz we talked about. Second, you might have a bit of cricket overdose in Dubai. They host so much cricket there, maybe fans are just getting tired. Third, the UAE as a venue has historically struggled to fill stadiums for events that aren't these massive global ICC tournaments. And finally, let's be honest, a match between the world's #1 team and an associate nation.
Most people probably saw it as a foregone conclusion. Okay, so let's bring these two threads, the insane on-field action and the bizarre off-field mystery, together to really get the full picture. Because what we're looking at here is kind of a perfect storm of factors.
And here's the crucial takeaway. The empty stadium wasn't because of one single thing. It was this weird convergence of everything, all at once. You had a massive competitive mismatch on the field. That mismatch was happening inside a tournament that just didn't have the same hype as a World Cup. And all of that was taking place in a venue that often has trouble attracting local crowds anyway. The result? This very bizarre spectacle. A historic cricket match played in a ghost town.
And that really leaves us with a bigger, more philosophical question for the sport of cricket. As the game tries to grow globally, you're gonna get these kinds of lopsided matchups. That's inevitable. But it forces us to ask, when these giants meet the minnows, is the spectacle of a record-breaking win truly worth it if it's played out on an empty stage? It's definitely something for fans and the folks running the sport to think about.